I'm sorry, my dog. I will start
I can
that
hear your
over.
dog. It's
Cornbread,
so
you gotta
cute.
get out of here. He's old, so he breathes so hard now, and it's Cornbread. You gotta go. You gotta go. He wants to sit in the office, and sorry, buddy. He's like, but my bed is right there. Hello, Reese. How are you, my dear?
I'm good. I mean, it feels a little surreal to be seeing you from so
Yeah.
far away when I saw you so recently. But I miss connecting with you. I was so looking forward to doing this interview in person
I
because,
know.
as you know, I am a huge fan of your work.
Ditto.
We've only known each other since we were. I mean, I
Girl,
feel like I met you when I was 23 years old.
I know. We have grown children.
I know. Remember when Ava and Ian were little?
Yes.
I can't. And I remember, and I can't remember if we met first and then we did Legally Blonde together, or we met each other on Legally Blonde. I can't remember.
We met each other on Legally Blonde.
We did?
We met each other on Legally Blonde. Yeah. And you know, like since we're on Legally Blonde, remember when you guys Sally Fields to play that part, and I was like, oh my God, we fanning out. And just you got to do that again on Big Little Lies with Meryl Streep. You pulled another huge one. I mean, just how do you do it, girl? Is it like when putting on your producer cap and your acting cap, like are you wearing them simultaneously, or do you switch them? How do you do that?
Well, I try to make them an offer they can't refuse. So set targets. I knew I wanted to work with you too. When I saw you, I remember seeing you and Jerry Maguire, and I was like, I'm going to work with her. I am going to work with her. You had a spirit inside of you. And I was like, that woman is truth. She is intelligence. She is beauty. She is soul. And she is honest. And I was like, I have to work with her.
Thank you.
And I feel so lucky that I got to, but we got to do it again. Because it's been too long.
We've got to do it again. We've got to do it again.
And we've talked a little bit about trying to find something, but we haven't found it yet, but we're going to do it.
We will.
Yeah, we will. And I'm so excited. First of all, you have won so many Emmys at this point. I mean, do you have a favorite moment, or a moment that just sits in your heart that you can never forget?
Oh.
Or the Oscar.
Honestly,
and I think the Emmy, the Oscar. It's hard to know.
Well, I mean, Reese, I think that you can attest to this because we've both been doing this for a long time. We both have made transitions to be behind the camera, as well, and to just deepen our storytelling experience by becoming more than just an actor. They're all special. It's kind of, it depends on the day when something is, at the forefront of my mind or heart. I mean, all of it is part of the journey, right? And it's kind of like, I'm grateful for everything that's happened, but I kind of take it's currency to help propel me into the next, whatever's next. That's kind of, they're all special moments. I mean, what about you? I remember when when you won the Oscar, and I might have had one drink 3 times at the Vanity Fair party, and I just it was such a pure moment. I remember standing at the table eating In-N-Out burgers just with the Oscar there, and it was so joyous, but you were still my girl. You still were just normal, for lack of, I'm sure people see that in, oh, none of you Hollywood people are normal, but it was still a moment between friends. You were sharing the the excitement of this first time thing that was happening, and we were still able to laugh and have to cover our mouths from laughing and eating at the same time, you know. So I think that you kind of, that's what's special about being able to have this one-on-one with you. Our
Yes.
trajectories have been similar in a lot of ways, and so I think you know what I mean when I say it's hard to say one moment which one is more special, you know.
No, and they're all huge part. You know, the thing I love about you is the stacking of achievements isn't just for your own gain and benefit, that you are determined to make a lot of change in our business by committing to hire more women, more people of color, to put them in the driver's seat, you know? And I think there's such an alignment between a lot of women of our generation about we do not want to leave this business the way we found it. And you and I have aligned on that on so many private conversations that we've had. But now we have the ability, with the emergence of television and streaming and all these emerging technologies, that are looking for fresh perspectives and new voices. And now we know there's data that our audience is there. And it used to be this
Right.
guessing game, like, oh, don't go to the box office to see women, or women of color can't star in movies as they don't travel. None of it is true. And it's this
Right.
amazing moment where we are
Yeah.
taking all of it back and going, wait, what are the decades, if not hundreds of years of stories that haven't been told? And I feel,
Told, right?
right? And I feel like if we all look like we're busy and doing 3 and 4 and 5 jobs, it's because we're trying to make up for lost time.
My story?
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, it's probably the same as a lot of people's stories. Kid grows up in the country around a bunch of cows and cornfields and dreams of a life that's less about manure and more about ideas, things that matter. Only to grow up and realize manure matters a whole lot.
You know, speaking of that, you know, this year was like humongous. Uh,
Yes.
I, I'll say the past couple years for you, but it's been particularly interesting with your career as of recent, because you have been such a your work has been so connected to film, and then these past, you know, couple years, you know, you've just, as a producer especially, you know, you've really tapped into the streaming, you know, cable world. And was did you go into that like actually thinking that you can reach more? Did it just kind of fall that way? Like what was, how did you land there? I mean, you have three big shows, you know.
Right. Well, I mean, none of it was. You can't anticipate what's going to happen in our industry, but it's incredible how media has changed and the importance of home viewership, and that there's this bar of excellence now, right? And I see that in your show. It is so beautifully made. I should say Watchmen. I've been, I mean, just binging it. It's beautifully made, incredibly written. The production value is off the charts. You all take us to this fantasy reality world that is so futuristic and present tense. Um, and I think people are now having these really premium experiences in their homes, but they're also going, I want to see stories about people who look like me and have the world that looks as diverse and inclusive as my world. And I think people don't want to just see the same 20 people making movies over and over and over again with the same 20 actors. I mean, I love them all.
Yeah.
They're wonderful. But it's amazing time, I think, with it's actually audiences who've changed everything. I mean, it's the
Sure.
people watching this program right now. They choose what shows they want to see, and they have chosen better storytelling by, a more diverse group of storytellers. And the proof is right there. But it's amazing to see those opportunities open up for women. I never thought honestly, I didn't think I'd see it in my lifetime. Did you?
Wait, did you say that last thing again?
Just kind of the changing landscape of women being in the
Oh,
driver's seat of directing and producing. I mean, it's so amazing.
oh, I totally agree with you with that. I did one of these this last year, and one of the things that I was talking about, the question was asked, you know, at what point did or did I always know that this shift was going to happen, or that I would be a part of it? And I did one of these last year, and one of the things that was asked was, um, you know, just how do I see my space in this shift, especially when you talk about content with stories that are more complex, for women, characters that are more complex, and also with representation, that also reflects more of what the world looks like. And I had to be honest and say, being so young, starting in the business, no, I did not actually go into it thinking that this is what I'm going to do. I am going to get behind the camera. I am going to have representation that is a diverse or reflective background of people. No, I did. I was just working. I was just doing what I enjoy doing, and it's probably motherhood that had a big deal to do with being a conscious of the need to be a part of creating a space that is telling uh, more stories that, not to keep using the word, but more stories that are reflective of the world that we live in.
Well, tell me why motherhood. But tell me, why do you think motherhood sort of inspired that thinking in your mind?
And I really think that why motherhood inspired was something that was subconscious. It was happening, and I was not really aware of it, but I do know why. And it's because when just as a mother, and it's so interesting, with Little Fires Everywhere, and that storyline, with Lynn and BB, between the two of them, those two characters, I don't know their last names, but the Lynn character and then the BB character, both being mothers, and both, there is something that opens your heart up, when you become a mother, no matter how you become a mother, there is this thing that opens up that it's hard to put words to, but you, on an intrinsic level, know that you, as a mother, are a pulse. You're part of the Earth's pulse, and recognizing that, you feel a need to want to be a part of change. When you know that things aren't right beyond the walls that you're in, as a mother, you can't help but when okay, I can create this space here that is safe. How can I illuminate that, make that bigger, so that other women, other people, not just women, can feel the need or the desire to make their spaces bigger. And I know it sounds probably a little, granola, but I definitely know that being a mother just like kind of cracked me open, and made me realize that my purpose is more than just being an actress.
and it's okay to want more.
Right.
I think so many times, you know, I was told just be happy to have a lane, you know? And when I was first trying to produce, it wasn't easy. People didn't want to just be helpful. I had to work twice as hard. I had to have twice as many hits to say, oh, okay, no, she really is getting good books. Oh, no, there's something different here. And it took me three successes for people to say, oh, okay, that's a real thing. She is a real producer. Because I say, even after we did our first 2 movies, Gone Girl and Wild, weren't making any money. I could barely keep the company open. Even Big Little Lies, it wasn't like this big economic boom until I started doing more audience engagement through book clubs and getting on Instagram and promoting women's stories that maybe even wouldn't make it to film and television, but you know, that it felt possible and that people said, oh yeah, okay, that is something. But I feel like there was a big shift about 5-6 years ago where people just said, okay, there really is an audience for these stories.
Right.
And I feel similar to you about motherhood was a big inspiration for me because I had a little girl and I thought, who's she going to see on film? The women I'm walking through world and seeing as superheroes in the world that I live in are not on screen.
Right.
They're wives and girlfriends, and they're never the center or the star of the movie. They're never the center of the TV show. And if they are, they're not representing ideals that I want to give to my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So and it took a long time. And I remember I was spinning my wheels a lot and not making any progress. But now it just feels like the world shifted in a way that opened up so much for all of us. And I want to say there's the moment in the very pilot episode of Watchmen where this little boy is watching, he's watching a black sheriff.
Right.
And you see him watch this man be the hero of the story. And you see his face light up, and then it goes to his mom. And she's playing the piano. And her face is sinking because she knows it's a story.
Right.
Regina, it just got me. I was like, it's the first 5 minutes.
That's really interesting about that is, you know, she knows it's a story, but it's also, you know, one of the things about Watchmen that I thought was like kind of blew me open when I read the pilot was all of these little stories within the story, all of these historical things that actually happen that are within the story. And then cut to the show is actually airing, the pilot airs, and how many people had never heard of Bass Reeves. That little boy, the awe that he had watching a person that really existed, and he was in awe, that so many people didn't even realize why it was even that him being in awe, why it meant so much. And when I say so many people not knowing, I mean of all races, of all ages, you know, that we have America, especially, you know, I'm American.
I didn't know.
Lived in another.
I didn't know.
Never lived in another country. So I don't know how their history plays, how their history books are written. But we have this this revisionist history in our country that some people just refuse to acknowledge that it is revisionist history and refuse to take the time to actually educate themselves on what actually happened in history, things that have truly formed, because those things happen, have formed why we are the way we are today, we as Americans. And it's kind of mind blowing, you know, when you talk to Damon Lindelof, he's a creator of the show. He had a moment, a lot of this story came from his discovery of the Tulsa massacre from reading Case for Reparations. And he was just like blown away that he didn't even know. And, he's a book smart, very, he probably would not like intellect to be the only a feather in his cap, but he is an intellect, and he was kind of embarrassed, and I that he didn't know. And through our many conversations, I was like, you shouldn't be embarrassed, but what you've done with your discovery is quite powerful, and part of what is the point of the human being's plight on earth. Like, if you're lucky enough to just do something, to just one thing with it, even if it just affects one person, then it was all worth it. It was, if he didn't know, if he did know about the Tulsa massacre a long time ago and learned about it in school, he probably wouldn't have written about it today. But having that discovery today and it blowing him back, he was able to put a lot of people up, give a lot of people a history lesson.
Yeah. And do it by putting this incredibly complex, fascinating woman at the center of the story.
You gonna give me the speech now?
What speech?
About how I'm overreacting by calling Article 4, and I should calm down and take a breath before we're at war again?
There's a guy in my trunk.
I actually wanted to ask you about the physicality of that part. You are shooting guns, you are kicking ass, and it blew me away. I was like, what was that like for you?
Well, it's funny because I said I'll wait till I'm damn near 50 to be a superhero, but okay, I'll take it. I will take it. I mean, I've always been a very
Powerful.
athletic person. I've had times in the past where I've had doubles that weren't quite great for me, and I've had doubles that were good. And so when we got into this, I was like, we've got to find a double that looks like me, that feels like me. Cause I'm not about to be doing all of this. I will do what I need to do to look good. You'll get one take, and that's it. But we need to be the when she comes in and I come in, or she goes out and I come in, vice versa. It should be seamless. No one should ever know. And so it took a while, and they found a wonderful stunt double, Sadiqa Bynum, and we trained together, we worked out together, we just tried to mirror each other's body movements. So some things she would mirror of mine, and some things I would mirror of hers, so that it would have this seamless, so you wouldn't know where Regina or Sadiqa come in and out. And us having that bond.
Your walk is so beautiful. Like the walk, you're down these hallways with this cape flowing behind you.
Oh my God.
It gives me chills. It's stunning.
Thank you so much, because
it's
as
so
we were
powerful.
putting that costume together, it was, we went through a lot of iterations, and I busted my butt a lot of times. That skirt, when I'm running, gets caught on my foot. There's a lot of video out there, or outtakes of Sadiqa and I both going down hard with that skirt.
I would love to see that.
But there was something to me that was, while, a lot of times with superhero costumes, they're very form-fitting on a woman. Not that that's a bad thing, but for us, it was like, how do we make it feminine, but still and make it different? And Damon, this idea of, instead of the cape on around her neck, women wear skirts. What if this skirt flows like a cape? And Sharon Davis, our costume designer, she just went through probably 50 different types of leather to come up with the leather that so it was empowering.
Wow. It's beautifully made. I mean, it's stunning. I mean, just the shot, it's just so much creative artistry, and you can tell so many people worked so hard to make it elevated, and it feels like this fantasy world meets reality, meets the future, meets the past. It's truly it's one of the most original things I've seen in a really long time. So congratulations to everybody involved in the production. It's really stunning.
Thank you.
This is the moment.
Is that supposed to be romantic?
Sorry?
All this time we've been together and you fall in love with me now?
No, I've always been in love with you. My perception of time...
Yeah, I get it. You stay here while I save your life.
Speaking of, like, when you're talking about creativity and making, Watchmen was this world that was a big world built out the way it was, and yes, it's the beautiful thing about storytelling is it could be a small world and still pull you in. It could be a huge world and pull you in. And when I watched Little Fires Everywhere, and I'm just curious about, because it goes, you guys are in Paris, you guys are in New York, I'm sure you didn't necessarily go to all those places, but there was, whenever we went to those places, we felt like we were there, and can you talk about that? Was this Lynn Shelton's, idea I just found it so exciting, because as a producer myself, I know that this was not this humongous budget, but yet she still was able to shift through all these different decades and all these different locations. All of you were storytellers, and make us feel like we were in those places. What was the planning going into that? Was that, just talk about that.
Well, Little Fires was just an incredible journey. I feel so fortunate to be able to partner with Kerry Washington. She just works so hard, and when you're partnering with people, you just don't ever know until you get going what it's going to be like. So the partnership with her, Liz Tigelaar, who was our showrunner, and all the writers, we had this incredibly inclusive writers room that had women who had an immigrant experience, had an adoption experience, women who grew up like Carrie's character, women who grew up like BB Chow's character, women who grew up like probably nobody who grew up like Elena Richardson, my character, but that discovery and that freedom to write about class and race in America, about who gets to be a mother and what do we value about motherhood in the 1990s. That sort of great experience of being able to look at a time that was actually 30 years ago and think, I was a teenager then. What did my mom say about sexuality, race, class? What were the things that I was told that maybe were true or not true? How was I insensitive? How were white people behaving in middle America at that point, thinking, I don't know, we got to explore all those things in a safe place where we were able to say to each other, is this right or wrong? Pardon my ignorance, but help me tell the best version of this story that is truthful and can illuminate what we got wrong, and so that we can look back and go, right, okay, yeah, that was dumb. no one spoke to me about sexuality when I was a teenager. I didn't understand what homosexuality was. My grandparents didn't explain it. My parents didn't explain it. I had to learn from somebody I met on an audition in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
We incorporated some of the conversation I had with my grandmother afterwards, where she said, homosexuality is very rare, Reese. That's not a thing that happens very often. And we put it in the script.
And you actually, Elena.
My grandma said that.
Elena said that.
Elena says it because that's what was said to me in Nashville, Tennessee in 1994,
Right.
But I want to speak a little bit about Lynn Shelton in that she was our partner. Kerry Washington, myself, Lynn Shelton, and Liz Tigelaar, and the producers, we threw our whole heart and soul into this production. Lynn spent so much time with the teenage kids, making them feel comfortable, feeling like they're going to push their performances to the edge. They're going to hear people who are going to shout at them. They're going to have sexuality that they're not going to, they're going to have to war with a lot of things. We had intimacy coaches with the kids, but she wanted so much for their performances to be real, for them to be heard and seen. And I think it's some of the most beautifully directed work. The pilot and the finale are both so much Lynn Shelton. And she passed away a few days ago. And I really warred with Kerry, and I spoke about, does it feel insensitive to talk about it? And we decided, no, we want to honor her legacy and tell people how she was such a wonderful creative soul, and she just made room for everyone and was everyone's greatest supporter. And she also was a visionary herself and made so many movies without listening to what people told her she could or couldn't do. She got so many independent films financed. She worked with so many incredible actors. She did so many television shows, and she's so beloved in our Hollywood community. And I hope that, I just send love to her family, and just know that her work will always live on in the hearts of so many people who were touched by her kindness and her artistry.
Yeah. I mean, what a blessing to learn from her, to work that closely. There's no better education to me than the experiential kind. And, to work alongside her like that and be able to soak up all of that richness and learn, have her pass on all of the things that she's learned along the way is truly a gift. So you guys were able to receive that.
And she would take each one of those teenagers. Lynn would take each teenager, and there would be 5 in a scene, and these kids that are incredible actors, but she would take each one of them aside and not only talk about their emotional experience, but what to do with their body. This physically, your energy is going this way, but I want you to go that way. And this is what you're thinking. So each one of them had a separate motivation, and you can see it in the work. They're just so devoted to her, and she would go bowling with them and go to have pizza dinners with them and their parents, and she was just deeply invested. She was just all in. And I just think, we lost a really, really, really great talent, and just a really amazing soul,
human being.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to hire someone for my house. Just to do a little light cleaning, some laundry, maybe cook dinner.
You mean, like to be your maid?
More like a housekeeper.
It feels odd to be talking about our work right now, but I have to say it's not. I always think when I'm talking about it, it's such a privilege to talk about your work, but there are hundreds of people that stand behind us and that make the costumes, your stunt double, the wonderful writers. that we are part of such a beautiful artistic community.
Community, I
And
know.
and right now all I want to do is get back with my community. I don't know where you were in your work process, but I'm sure you're missing your family, your work family.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, um, and again, we both have experience where, you know, some people from the work family from one project end up on another project, or end up 10 years later on another project. And you know, the it is, we are truly a part of a community. And um I know that for those people that are not in our industry, it's hard for them to see it that way, because they don't see the faces and they see the work, but they don't see the faces and the families of all the people that aren't in front of the camera. And that's why it is important to talk about Lynn. It really is, you know, because it's an example. It is an opportunity to let everyone else know just how big our community is, how much bigger it is than this little screen, or that, you know, 50-foot screen when you go to the movie theater. You know, it's really important for us to remind the audiences that there's no way that we can do what we do or entertain without having the whole, well, I'll say community, I was about to say army of people that are storytellers, that are part of bringing the entertainment.
Yeah, and it's that I grew up like that, and you too. You know, but you started out in television, and it is completely changed. But you and I both, I mean, we grew up on movie sets and television sets, and
Yeah,
I have to be honest. I think this is the longest I haven't worked since I had a baby. Like,
girl.
going a little,
I
yeah.
know, I know. I said the same thing the other day. I was like, well, you know, I'm still waking up at 4 or 5 in the morning. I don't have to. Oh, I don't have a video conference call for another 4 or 5 hours. But I just, I love what we do. I love, it's so galvanizing. I love working and talking shop, and you know, just as a young, when I say young, meaning as far as my career as a director and a producer, I love learning with that, when I'm thinking with when I'm using that part of my mind, and having, when I say learning, again, learning from others. It's a lot of hard work, but it's so magical. And I have to trust and believe that our community, along with the rest of the world, are going to find our way through this, and how we're going to get back to it. It's going to take a lot of trust, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, the reality is the reality, and there's not going to be a vaccine anytime soon. Um, we have to understand that while we're telling people stay home, there are people out there who are not in financial situations that, to say that to them is almost insulting. So I try to be very careful about saying that too much, because I do understand that some people don't know where their next meal is going to be right now in this moment. They didn't know it before, but now with what's going on, it's, you know, it's quadrupled. So I really am trying to have faith in uh, that we're all doing a little bit of our part to keep ourselves safe, and get to and to be part of solution-based thinking. Yeah, very interesting time.
It is, and God bless the people who have to make decisions that affect people's health and our economy. That's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, it's a lot of responsibility.
Why do you think all these people are out here protesting?
I don't know, because they think it's dangerous or whatever.
Do you think it's dangerous? Do you even know what's in coal ash? Arsenic, copper, lead, mercury, uranium. That is some toxic shit. And what about jobs? What do you know? How many jobs have been lost in the last 10 years?
I don't know.
Huh?
I don't know.
Thousands!
Okay, let me ask you, how do you feel? Are you going to maybe go back for season 2 of Watchmen?
You know, I don't know. Honestly, I feel like I think HBO would want it back in a heartbeat. I think there's all possibility for anything, you know, but the beauty of Watchmen, when you talk about the source material, you know, it can go on with anyone's story. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to just be all so much of it has to be Angela and Sister Knight's story or Dr. Manhattan's story. It could be I think that the possibilities are infinite, but I feel that if Damon doesn't see it, then it's gonna be a no for me. You know,
it sounds like y'all have a great relationship between The Leftovers and Watchmen. Maybe you guys will do something totally original together again.
Yes. And I know you get this. I discovered this from working on Southland, that because that experience was so great, I don't want to be a part of anything if it's not a collaborative situation. And Damon is such a great collaborator. And, you know, I kind of, at this stage, what's the point if we can't feel like we're taking some bit of ownership, that we aren't actually bringing our gifts to the table in a full way. And that experience I had with Damon on Leftovers. So honestly, Reese, I didn't even know, I'd never read a Watchmen comic book in my life. I hadn't seen the film. So, you know, when Damon reached out and was like, I'm going to send you a script, you know, I was just like, I don't care what it's about. You don't even have to tell me. Yeah, I am here. I want to read. Then I read it and it was just like blown away.
Well, we're so lucky you did.
Do you feel that, do you feel like there's a possibility for season 3 of Big Little Lies, or is there room for little fires everywhere?
I think probably Little Fires Everywhere feels very close-ended. I think it has a nice resolution. It feels very done. I never say never, because we thought Big Little Lies was going to be one season, and we had no idea we were going to go back. But I will say Big Little Lies is one of the most fulfilling creative experiences for me. Just working with those women, Nicole Kidman, Laura Dern, Zoe Kravitz, and Shailene Woodley, and now Meryl Streep. It was just a dream. And every day I got excited to go to work. I couldn't wait to improvise with Laura Dern or Meryl Streep. I couldn't believe I got to improvise with her. And Nicole is just a class act partner, and that began my TV streaming producing career, was these partnerships with incredible women like Nicole and Jennifer Aniston on Morning Show, which we are doing a season 2 of Morning Show. We were right in the middle. We weren't in the middle. We were 4 weeks in, and we had to shut down production. So we are going to get back as soon as people are going to let us back to work. That's the first thing. We're going to finish season 2 of Morning Show, which is also an incredible experience. And I just feel really, I just feel really grateful to be in this position in my life, in my 40s, working more than I've ever worked in my whole life. But also what you said really resonated with me, to the people value my opinions and what I contribute. And I feel like it's a great time to be an artist in our business.
I think part of the problem is we lie to our kids. We fill their heads full of Santa Claus and stories with happy endings, when most of us know most endings to most stories fucking suck. Right? Let's just get real.
I cheer you on every time I see your name up there, and I see you directing. I see pictures of you directing, and I think that is such a perfect person. You have so much experience, but you all have so much empathy and spirituality and faith and heart and soul to give. And it's so lovely to see you in that position now, being able to put your stamp on this beautiful work that you're making. So please direct more, create more.
I want to. Is direct? Would you ever direct? Is that something you ever thought about doing?
Oh gosh, I don't think I have the, people think I'm really organized. I'm just not that organized. I don't think like that either. But I love producing. I love it. I love putting groups of people together is really fun for me, and figuring out what everybody's superpower is and letting them feel free with their ideas and do their best work it's the joy of my life. I love it.
I don't know. I might try to push you out there.
I'll be in anything you direct.
I think you would be.
Call me. I would love to.
Well, I think
you
would be an amazing
directing.
director. Just the fact that. What did you say?
I would love to see you on set and see how you work and how you move a camera and the direction you give, because I do think actors have this deep empathy, right? We have this ability to erase ourselves and stand in another person's shoes, and that's a rare thing. You know, as you get older, you start to realize not a whole lot of people think very, very deeply about other people's experiences, which is a blessing, and sometimes it's a curse. Because I can be on the floor thinking about somebody that I don't know very well, or I'll read a news article and it will hit me sideways. I can't get through my day, and right. That is such a gift. But I feel really lucky in this world that I found an outlet for it, right? Because what else is it good for? I don't know.
That's so funny, because
skill set.
As a child, I know you had that. Like, things would affect you in a way like, why is this happening? Like, why am I don't know this person. But it is, I'm shuddering inside. And yes, thank goodness we found an outlet to release all of that. I don't know. Is it empathy? Is it? I don't know. But just I know exactly what you're talking about, because I've experienced that. I feel like I have a handle on it as an adult, because I can understand why it's happening. But as a child, I didn't know why, when I watched Sally Field and Sybil, why that just affected me so, the way it did. Like you said, you can read an article, you can read a book and you finish it, or you watch a show or a movie and finish it, but you can't stop feeling it. Not thinking about it, you can't stop feeling it. And why is that? It's hard to put that in words when you're younger. So thank goodness for this thing called acting. to be able to get it out.